going on, everybody? Welcome back to the LTL podcast. It is August 4th, 2023, and this is episode 50. On tonight's podcast, we're going to get into the Bryan Kohberger Alibi. And if you're watching this live right now, feel free to chat to the right-hand side of the screen. And if you're watching this on a replay, go down there and comment #replay because we love to see those replays. And if you could, when you come into the room, smash that like button. I have a pretty well mapped out show for all of you this evening. As you know, there has been a recent document dump in the Bryan Kohberger case. And finally, we have heard some inklings of an alibi. And do we, hopefully through this podcast, will come to understand this alibi? And I'll leave it up to you if you believe it or you don't believe it. And speaking of that, I have a post at the top of the chat, and I'm asking that basic question. Do you believe Bryan was just driving around on the night of the murders? So feel free to tap into that poll up there, and we'll show the results maybe midway through the show or towards the end of the show. All right. Well, let's pull up our first piece of material that we're going to go through from the Daily Mail, dailymail.com. Idaho murder suspect Bryan Kohberger's lawyer claims he has a long habit of going out for drives alone at night and admit he did so on the night of the killings. So Bryan Kohberger's legal team has said that he had a habit of going for drives alone, and he did so on the night of the murders. The 28-year-old stands accused of murdering 4 University of Idaho students last November. His trial is currently set for October, which is not going to fucking happen, I'm going to tell you that. And in June, prosecutors said it would be seeking the death penalty. Idaho quadruple murder suspect Bryan Kohberger's legal team have claimed he had a habit of going for drives alone at night and did so on the night of the killings. The 28-year-old is accused of fatally stabbing students Kayla Gonzalez, Madison Mogan, Xander Knodel, and Ethan Chapin at their home in Moscow, Idaho in the early hours of November 13th last year. His trial is currently set for October, and the prosecutors said they're seeking the death penalty and was recently filing a motion to force him to reveal an alibi. In a new motion filed by his defense after the state requested alibi from him, his lawyer said Mr. Kohberger has a long habit of going on drives alone. Often, he would go for drives at night. He did so late on November 12th and into November 13th, 2022. The article goes on to read, the motion continues. Mr. Kohberger is not claiming to be at a specific location at a specific time. And at this time, there is no specific witness to say precisely where Mr. Kohberger was at each moment of the hours between the late night, November 12th, and the early morning of November 13th. It also states corroboration of Bryan Kohberger not being at 1122 King and may be brought out through cross-examination of state's witnesses. At this time, Mr. Kohberger cannot be specific about the possible witnesses that and exactly what they will say. Prior to the new motion, his defense filed a motion to dismiss the case, demanding the case be thrown out or reprimanded by a preliminary hearing. And we know why Ann Taylor wants that preliminary hearing, because she can get witnesses on the stands especially the two witnesses that were in the house that evening, Bethany Funk and Dylan Mortensen, and try to get them to crack under the pressure. Prior to the new motion, his defense filed a motion to dismiss the case, demanding the case be thrown out or reprimanded for a preliminary hearing. I just read that. Blech. His legal team also filed a request to halt proceedings without waiving his right to a speedy trial with the attempt to challenge the jury selection process. Both set of lawyers admitted motions demanding exhibits to be sealed and kept from being relayed to the public during the trial. Idaho law stipulates that defendants must submit an alibi defense to the court within 10 days of writing demand from the prosecuting attorney. Police body cam footage captured the moments Kohberger's sedan was stopped. And we already know this. Last month, the team filed the wrote. We already really know a lot of this, so we know about the matching of the DNA, and it just basically gives you some background here. So a little bit of an opening statement for the podcast, a little bit of an opening statement of what's going on right now in this alibi. We're going to bring up the alibi. We're going to bring up the alibi document, and we're going to read through it because I think we should know. We should know where Bryan was that night. We need to know. He was just out driving around. Just driving around. That's all he was doing. He's driving. You get up. Come on. You guys know it. 2 a.m. Gotta go drive. Just going for a drive. Just driving around. That's all we're doing. Just driving. All right. Let's get into it. Comes now. Bryan C. Kohberger, by and through his attorney of record, Ann C. Taylor, public defender, hereby objects to the state motion to compel motive of defense or alibi, or alternatively, a bar certain evidence. He's just out minding his business. Jessica knows. Jessica knows he's just out driving around. You know, those late night drives. No particular where to go. You know, wasn't there a song that said that? With no particular place to go. Help me out. Just out driving around with no particular place to go. Do I have those lyrics right? Come on. You can help me out. Maybe we'll sing tonight. Harley's liking it. What is that? Oops, I swore. 10 minutes. Is it 10 minutes in? No, about 8 minutes. What is that song? Driving along in my automobile. With no particular place to go. Right? Driving in circles. You guys all know. Yeah, he really did like driving around in that area, didn't he? I'm going to get more into that. Driving, yeah, Chuck Berry. That's it. Driving along in my automobile, right? With no particular place to go. I wish I could play the song, but I can't because I would get nailed. All right, Idaho Code 19-151. 519 and IRC 12.1 required by alibi disclosure for specific location with a specific location and witnesses to so testify. By statutory definition, Mr. Kohberger remains silent, yet testify that he was not at 112 King Road, November 13th, 2022. However, in an abundance of caution and recognition, the court has authority to exclude witnesses. Mr. Kohberger was indicted and anticipates corroborating witnesses. I'm not going to read this code. I just want to get in kind of the heart of the document. This is Idaho State Code. Mr. Kohberger has long had a habit of going on drives alone. Often, he would go for drives at night. He did so late on November 12th and into November 13th, 2022. Mr. Kohberger is not claiming to be at a specific location at a specific time. At this time, there is not a specific witness to say precisely where Mr. Kohberger was at each moment of the hours between the late night of November 12th to I'm almost laughing here. November 12th, 2022. And I'm trying not to laugh because I understand this is very serious. I mean, this is someone's life, as much as the victims have to suffer, he is going through stuff himself. And we, this man's life is on the line. And, as we say, he is innocent until proven guilty. He will get his due process in court. I can have my own opinions. You can have all your own opinions in the chat as well, too. But we'll go on. He was out driving during the late night and early morning hours of November 12th through the 13th of 2022. Counsel for Mr. Kohberger is aware. It's funny because when I read that, and I'm going to play something here in a second from Peter Tragos. When I read that, it made me believe or understand, and I think the defense is even saying this too, and it's almost what Peter's going to mirror in a second, because I the minute I read this, I was like, I think that the defense believes the state actually can prove that he was out, that they have enough evidence to prove that he was out. And what I think the defense is going to say is that they're going to say, well, you have video of him driving. You have video of him in and around King Road. For Christ's sakes, you have him on camera doing a 3-point turn. You have his car drive. But so what? He drove through the neighborhood. You don't have him on video actually getting out of the car and going into the house. Just because he drove down through that neighborhood doesn't make him a killer. I guarantee you that's going to be the defense they use. Now knowing, just this little snippet of this article of this document right here, when I read it, I was like, holy shit, the defense is actually saying that they believe the state is going to prove that he actually was out. Not like the defense can say, hey, this guy was home. He was in his bed. His phone was turned off. He was sleeping. They're actually going to say that he was out just driving around, just driving. And so what? He went by King Road. Big deal. He often drove down in that area. He drove down. He just was looking around, just driving around. But I don't see any video of him going inside the house. And so what? He took off fast from a particular area. So kids do that all the time. He's just out driving around having fun. That's what I think that they're gonna do. Something in that sense. Counsel for Mr. Kohberger is aware that case law broadens the definition of alibi with the statutory requirements of a specific location to more broadly include disclosure of information that tends to state the person claiming alibi was at in a place where other locations of an offense. Mr. Kohberger has complied to that extent at this time. Corroboration of Mr. Kohberger's not being at 112 King may be brought out through cross-examining of state witnesses. And again, this is where they're going to get those witnesses on the stand, poke holes in their stories, try to beat them down, try to make them scared. Was it a 6'3" man? I don't know. Maybe. I mean, it could have been a 10-foot, a 5'10" guy. Okay. Well, look, jury, my client is 6'3" or whatever he is, 6 foot. They're saying that the guy was 5'8" and 5'10". They didn't get a clear look at his face, et cetera, et cetera. At this time, Mr. Kohberger could not be specific about the possible witnesses and exactly what they will say. The defense has been hampered by the state's own choices. The state chose a secret grand jury rather than planned preliminary hearing. Had the state moved forward with the preliminary hearing, the defense would have had the opportunity to develop testimony through cross-examination and witness presentation. Boo, 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 boo. That's the boo, 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 boo. No, that's the kid that's going to take his ball and go home. That sentence right there. The state chose a secret grand jury rather than planned preliminary hearing. Boo, 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 boo. I'm taking my ball and I'm going home. That's what it is. That's what that sentence is. Because she's pissed because she didn't get the preliminary hearing. Instead, the defense has only received on July 22nd, 2023, a copy of the testimony the state chose to elicit. Review of such is underway. The defense had an investigation investigative materials from the state investigative counterparts, the FBI, through the order compelling, and the state provided such materials. The state has draft disclosures 2 weeks ago, and sufficiency of these disclosures is currently being analyzed. Corroboration of Bryan Kohberger not being at 112 King may be brought out through expert witness presentation, and analysis is underway. The defense will be diligently working to analyze relevant discovery materials and conduct its own investigation. Notably, the defense has obtained a court order to receive relevant discovery materials. That delay hampers the defense investigation. The defense acknowledges a vast amount of discovery has been provided. Discovery is received on a nearly weekly basis. So keep that in mind too. There's always evidence on a weekly basis being turned in, mounting amounts of evidence. Now, evidence doesn't mean guilt, but I'm saying there's a hell of a lot of evidence in this case. The defense reviews and acts on discovery as quickly as possible, including making appropriate supplemental requests for discovery. The state's motion is an attempt to force the defense to open its work product files and let the state peek inside. The defense has stated all that can firmly be stated at this time. This is not trial by ambush from the defense. This is the defense requesting information as quickly as possible, yet in some instances face the delay of requesting a court order to obtain information. The state continually uses opportunities to attempt to force a waiver of speedy trial. This is a decision left to Mr. Kohberger and Mr. Kohberger alone. Mr. Kohberger was out driving alone. He was just out driving with no particular place to go. Corroborating evidence may come from cross-examination of state witnesses. Corroborating evidence may come from the presentation of defense experts. Mr. Kohberger is aware and will comply with his continuing duty to disclosure information. The court may exempt Mr. Kohberger from further inquiry. Mr. Kohberger's request, such as exception at this time. Continue inquiry at this junction delves into the case investigation as well as protected work product in support of exemption. Mr. Kohberger is prepared to provide further detail in a ex parte hearing with the court. And I hope I said that right. I might have. And that is from Ancy Taylor, public defender. As I keep getting deeper and I read more into these documents and, read them over and speculate on them, it's going to be a very ugly trial. Not in the sense of, like we know how ugly these murders were, of course, 4 lives were innocently taken. But it's just going to be a lot of mudslinging in this trial. I think if and when it goes to trial, the way that both sides are acting in this, the way that all these documents are being filed, what they're being filed about, maybe some petty stuff in there from both sides. I feel like it's just 2 stubborn children getting together and just being very stubborn together. So I think it's going to be a messy, ugly trial. It's really giving us the opportunity to peel back in these high-powered cases and look, what's kind of behind the curtain, what goes on behind the scenes. And I think that's why this has been so compelling. This is why everybody's so locked into this case. I mean, I'm in for the long haul now. I want to see this to completion, and I think along the lines that, yeah, some people will lose interest in this. Some people will move on. I've seen it just in some of the circle of the people that I talk to. And I would just say, buckle in, because this is probably going to be a long ride. I don't see this trial happening in October. I would be shocked if it happens on time. I literally will be shocked. I literally be shocked if this happens on time. Danielle agrees. Yeah. Opinion says it's just like 2 kids in the backseat fighting while driving in traffic. And I think that's why people have been just maybe, very, leaves a very, distasteful taste in their mouth, if that makes any sense. but it's going to be a lot of mudslinging. It's going to be a lot of rocks thrown. I think that's where we're getting at this case. Okay, let's pull up that Peter Tragos cut. And it was funny because it was almost to the T of what I said. Play a little bit that's from Peter. Hear what he has to say on this, and it's just almost exactly what I just said a couple of seconds ago.
So, Cheryl said, convenient alibi. And I tend to agree. I've mentioned multiple times, maybe Kohberger was sleeping at his house by himself and he has nobody to corroborate that. And,
I agree,
no security camera or, key card. Maybe that's why he's not putting it. That's what I've kept guessing as the most plausible alibi is he's sleeping in his house by himself.
Yeah,
I know what I learned from this document. And this is just Peter reading between the lines.
Exactly what I said here.
I think that I've learned that the state believes, the defense believes the state is going to be able to prove that Bryan Kohberger was not at his own house that night, that he and his Elantra were out and about driving around that night. And again, like I said, if they prove that he turned his phones off other nights, I think the defense knows and has succumbed to the fact that the state can prove all this. So I think they know their theory has to fit in to Bryan Kohberger not being at his house.
Let me just pull this up real quick. Midwest Girl says, do they know it for a fact that the state doesn't have a ring camera of Bryan Kohberger getting in the car into the house? Also, let's not forget that during drive, he also drove back to the scene of the crime. Absolutely. And again, we don't know. We don't know that yet. I'm just only speculating off the evidence that we have. Okay. That's all I'm talking about here. If they don't have any particular camera of him getting out of a car, going towards that house, the defense just might turn around and say, so what? He was out driving around. He always drove through that neighborhood. Look, you caught him down in that area 12 times before. Maybe he liked to bird watch down there. I'm just throwing some just some bullshit out here. I'm just spitting off the top of my head. So what? Playing defense, I guess. So what? He went down there. Maybe he was a very, he was trying to be social. He wanted to be in the it life and would often go down there and just watch people to try to be social. I mean, I don't know. I'm just spitting stuff off the top of my head. But I think that's what it's going to come down to. If they don't have something of him walking in that house that night, so what? He went for a drive. He drove in that area. Maybe he went down to the food. He liked that food truck. I mean, I don't know. I'm just spitting shit out here. I think that's what they're going to go. That's what they're going to go for. So Allison says, in a way, his alibi hasn't changed from what he previously stated. He has just weaved it into the known evidence. Absolutely. I mean, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, let's play on here. And thank you for the $4.99. I appreciate you so much. Let's keep playing on here.
It has to fit into Bryan Kohberger being out on the road. And again, we need to discuss what we know, what we can talk about, what we think, because I've heard some speculation and people talk about how that's not even his Elantra. That's not even his cell phone. It wasn't pinging. Well, we know his car was way over there. There are tons of those launches. It could have been this or that or the other. I don't think the defense is going to argue any of that. They're not going to argue he was there for a legal purpose. We know that he was at the King Rhodes house for a legal purpose. They've crossed that one out. And they've also crossed out that he was anywhere else except in his car alone. And if you remember from the Murdoch case, a lot of times Murdoch's lawyers would take things that they knew the state was going to be able to prove. So both sides were agreeing. Here are some of the facts, but it means this, not that. And that right now looks like, interestingly enough, what Kohberger's team is going to do. I'm a little surprised by this, right? I mean, I don't know. We don't know a lot of the evidence, right? And there's gag order, and maybe the cell phone experts and the pinging and the black box data and whatever they have, maybe it is legit and just this is it. They can prove it. So our defense or our alibi has to fit into that. Yeah, Nanette. Let's get those likes up.
Okay. So I just wanted to play a little bit of that. We're going to go on to Brian Enton here. Let's see what Brian had to say. This was last night.
It states Mr. Kohberger has long had a habit of going for drives alone.
Brian, if you're watching this, respond to my Twitter message. I'd love to have you on LTL podcast.
Often he would go for drives at night. He did so late on November 12th and into November 13th, 2022. Mr. Kohberger is not claiming to be at a specific location at a specific time. At this time, there is not a specific witness to say precisely where Mr. Kohberger was at each moment of the hours between late November 12th, 2022 and early morning November 13th, 2022. He was out driving during the late night and early morning hours of November 12th to November 13th, 2022. So he was out for a long drive. These 4 pages, they don't give any evidence to back that up. But there was one line that stood out to me. It says, Mr. Kohberger has indicated he anticipates corroborating witnesses. So maybe there are witnesses. They may have witnesses waiting. Maybe there aren't witnesses. We don't know that part yet. They didn't fill us in there, but apparently they are claiming the alibi is he was out driving during that time. Joining me now with their insights on all of this, criminal trial attorney and News Nation legal analyst Sarah Azari. She also has a weekly podcast called The Presumption. And Dave Ehrenberg, state attorney for Palm Beach County and a former assistant attorney general. We've got a great panel tonight, Sarah and Dave. I want to start with you, Sarah. I mean, out driving.
Look at Brian.
They say that he was out driving around.
She's gonna go, yeah, of course.
I mean, what do you make of it?
Yeah.
I guess I was just expecting something more than that.
Well, I'm sorry you're disappointed, Brian, but look, Ann Taylor's all business. She's no games here. And I think we're used to seeing an alibi in the traditional sense where it is, I was here at this time and these are the people that can corroborate it. That's not what she's doing. What stood out to me is that there is this new information, and we know that she's saying he was alone. Translation: there is nobody that corroborates, where he was, what he was doing at this time, and that she was driving around. That's key, because should those cell pings, the movement of the car, the data from the phone, in fact check out and be reliable forensic evidence, then he doesn't have to deny that it was him driving that Elantra. He could just say, that still is insufficient to place me in this party house and put a knife in my hand. So I think those two terms were really significant in terms of the new information. And again, I think, alibi under Idaho code doesn't necessarily have to be, I was there, I was with this person at this time. Because remember, in this case, the time stamps go far beyond the 15-minute window around the murder. So for him to be able to get a gazillion terabytes of information and go through all of this with the delay and then be able to say where he was exactly at a specific time is impossible at this. And they're pressing Ann Taylor saying, where's the alibi? Where's the alibi? Where's this? She's like, here's fine. This is what he was doing. He was driving, and that's as much as we can tell you at this point.
Okay, so he was driving around, they say. We know there were cell phone pings, which I guess could go along with this driving around alibi. But Dave, my question is, remember, they said that his phone was turned off during the time of the murders. So if they're going to say he was driving around, how do they then explain why the phone was mysteriously turned off just at the time when the murders happened?
Yeah, such a criminology expert this defendant is, huh? He turns off his phone during the murders and expects to get away with it because of it. How will they find me? My phone was turned off. Well, the stuff in Ann Taylor's document, her pleading, is not inconsistent with what happened.
What? College house is not a fucking party house. You know what I mean? Especially in these like small towns. I mean, yeah, Idaho is like known, but it's like kind of small. It's a pretty small area. There's not a lot of people in and around that area. But I always find this funny too. They're like, oh, it's a party house. It's a party house. what college house wasn't a party
Happened.
house?
This is what she said, as you quoted, that he would go on drives at night, and he did so late on November 12th and into November 13th. Well, that is still consistent with slaughtering those innocent victims. He could have been driving late on November 12th, stopped at the house in the wee hours, and then drove back. So it's not inconsistent. But the whole purpose of this alibi requirement under Idaho law is to avoid trial by ambush. You want to give prosecutors a chance to track down the witnesses. So
I think even Tanya made a good point the other day when we were talking about, like, even if they were doing drugs in there, okay? And I don't know, I'm just speculating here. Like, they're probably smoking weed, who knows? Maybe they did a little bit more party drugs or whatever. Someone's not going to go out and X out 4 people over some weed or a little bit of, whatever little bits of substance. I mean, it's not like this was moving bales of weed through this house or pounds of cocaine or heroin or what the fuck, whatever. I mean, it's just not going to happen. It's just almost laughable
that Kohberger doesn't show up
it wasn't
the day of trial and says, here it is. Here's Uncle Stewie. I was at his house with him. That's not fair. And they didn't give any witnesses because there are no witnesses. He's just going to say he was by himself that night. How convenient.
Sarah, I remember you told me early on, I remember you said this. You said this on the show, that you thought the biggest issue for the defense was that the phone was turned off. You found that was a problem. It still doesn't seem like they can explain that. They can say he was driving around, but how do you look past the fact that the phone was turned off?
I thought you were going to cross-examine me. Yeah, I still stand by what I said. I think that's always a bad fact. When a phone is on consistently and then is suddenly off, that to me is far worse than some of the stuff we hear about the touch DNA, for example, at the scene. I think we need to know a lot more about the cell data. Again, to be able to put this into context. I think prosecutors always, Dave may be the exception, but prosecutors always come with hand-picked, cherry-picked pieces of evidence and information, and we then come in with a bigger context. And so without really seeing what the cell data is like, I can't really say how bad it is that his phone is off,
Yeah, it makes sense.
Thank you for watching.
All right, we're going to continue that conversation. They actually cut it into 2 pieces. I think this is another part of it. So let's keep playing.
Here's the thing that I think Sarah and I can agree on is that even if they violated the rule and didn't provide the names and addresses as required, the judge is still going to allow a last-minute alibi witness in the interest of justice. The tie always goes to the defendant and then some.
Interesting. Yeah.
I also think at one point, I also think the way that I read it was that what Ann Taylor's saying is that had you given us the opportunity to prelim to cross-examine your witnesses, we could potentially corroborate that he was driving around. I read it to mean not necessarily that the defense will bring in new witnesses, but that in the process of the trial and cross-examination, they might be able to corroborate this quote unquote alibi.
Yeah, you bring up a good point, Sarah. You could tell that the defense was annoyed that they didn't get the preliminary hearing. I mean, they thought they were going to get the prelim. There was a secret grand jury happening that no one knew about. I want to read this part that you.
Allison, I don't think it really is going to. I think there's always going to be these front runners in this. And even like I said, and I always joke about this, if they literally have video of him walking through the house, plunging this K-bar knife into one of the victims on video, there will still be people out there that go, it's not him. Just couldn't have done it. It's not him. And I don't know what that attraction is. It's just not him. Couldn't be. This is a lonely soul plucked from society in the middle of nowhere that had no connection to these 4 victims and just was innocently his DNA was taken from him, preserved, and then spread on this knife sheath. And then someone came in, the police, some drug lords, students, whoever it is, and murdered these 4 victims and had it all set up from the very beginning. Years in advance, they knew this was going to be the guy, and then planted that knife sheath and he was just out innocently driving around, just happened to drive in and around the King Road. I mean, what a coincidence. He was just driving around 112 King that night. And come to find out, he was framed for this crime. Just out driving around. That's it. Just driving around.
You referred to, Sarah. It says corroboration of Bryan Kohberger not being at 1122 King may be brought out through cross-examination of the state's witnesses. At this time, Mr. Kohberger cannot be more specific about the possible witnesses and exactly what they will say. Had the state moved forward with the preliminary hearing, the defense would have had the opportunity to develop testimony through cross-examination and witness presentation. So, I mean, I get that they're annoyed, Sarah, but I mean, that's not the way the law works, right? I mean, the prosecution had an opportunity to the grand jury, and that's what they did. So, like, why even say that in the document?
Well, yeah, and that part of her pleading was a little bit like wah wah.
Yeah, wah wah. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, Dave knows this. It's absolutely the state's choice whether to go by grand jury to establish probable cause or do a preliminary hearing, and they chose to go by grand jury.
I talked about that, and there was no preliminary hearing. Boom, 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 boom. I'm going to take my ball and go home, and she actually just said that too. So
said, why aren't they doing that? When are they going to do that? You know, so it was absolutely their choice. But I think the defense is annoyed altogether that you are delaying discovery, you are trying to take a peek into essentially our work product to find out who was corroborating witnesses are for Alibi, and you're trying to violate his sacrosanct right to a speedy trial that he doesn't want to waive. And so sit this one out, you know, prosecutor. And that's really what she's saying. She's kind of like, that? Fine, he was driving around.
When did you say that?
Yeah, that's how when you mentioned the wah-wah attitude, I mean, with a lot of her filings, I don't know if this is just because there's a gag order, but it's almost like she tries to sort of like paint a picture of the vibe right now, or what she's annoyed about, or what she wants people to know. Do you know what I mean? Have you gotten that sense, Dave, a little bit? Like, or is that just, does this all look normal to you?
Oh, she's mad at the prosecutors because they gave her false hope. For a while, the prosecutors were going to go through with the preliminary hearing, and Sarah and I were like, why? And then, as if they were waiting for her to reach for that dollar bill on the ground, they snatched it away at the last minute. And I think that's what she's upset about, was because the prosecutors always had this ability just to go to a secret grand jury, but they were not going to do so until late after she had prepared for the preliminary hearing. So she's going to try to make life a little miserable for the state now.
Yeah, I guess that would be annoying if you prepared for that preliminary hearing and then you find out that that was kind of a waste of time. Sarah, do you think that he was driving around, this new alibi that's come out? He was driving around.
Just driving
Is that
around.
it? I mean, is there going to be more to this when we see a trial, or is this what we should expect? Like, this is what they're going to say. He was just out for this night drive.
I mean, look, it's really nice to be able to stick to a theory of the defense all the way from the beginning through trial. What's important is that at trial, you need to pick a theory and stick to it. But up until trial, it's, you know, you can throw things at the wall and see what sticks. You might say things because you're under pressure like she is to just, you know, get them to back off a little bit. I don't think it's wise because we're all, you know, all eyes are on this case, and we're trying to read into every document that is posted on the court's website. And now she's saying he was driving. But look, it's possible, you know, I think these two college towns, there was a definite relationship, egress, ingress between these, you know, these towns. He lived in that town. And so these college students were socializing back and forth. I don't think it's unusual that he was driving around. You know, it's not like he just decided he can't sleep and started driving around. We don't know where he was driving from, where he was going.
Right.
It's very vague, right? So she's leaving room to be able to explain this further and flesh it out further. That's how I read it.
Dave, if you were the prosecutor on this case, I mean, is there anything that would have you worried at this point? Is there anything that stands out to you where you'd be saying, and again, there's a lot we don't know, but from just what we know, where you'd be telling your team, look, I think we've got an issue with this?
No, there was the one witness inside the home, a surviving roommate who supposedly had exculpatory evidence, meaning evidence that could lend towards Kohberger's innocence. And that's why they wanted her to testify at the preliminary hearing. And she didn't want to testify for various reasons. I think that was a fabrication in the press. I don't think she really has that kind of evidence that would clear Kohberger. But that's the only thing I've seen so far that if it did exist, that could create reasonable doubt. Otherwise, I think that they got this guy dead to rights.
It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out.
Dave, what about the 3 unknown male DNA profiles at the scene? What about the fact that it was a party house? What about the fact that 8 hours later the police were called and the house was clean? What about the fact that there was...
Well, you say it was a party house. Wouldn't that explain all the DNA, though? There's probably all sorts of DNA profiles there. His DNA was on the knife sheath.
Right.
But that's touch DNA. So that's problematic.
Oh.
Dave knows that. And then there was the one-legged situation with the one latent footprint. I mean, what is that? Like, was somebody hopping around? I mean,
it was a one-legged man that committed this crime.
Those problems can be a wash as we learn more in this case. If there's more evidence that's reliable, that will withstand the testing in court, then I think, we can have a better conversation. But right now I see a lot of problems. I see a lot of holes.
Well, I think it's a good point you make that we don't have a lot of the information. So it's hard. You can only discuss this so far without knowing everything that they know. Sarah Azari, Dave Ehrenberg, you both are the greatest. Thank you so much for coming.
That was great. It was a great segment. It was a really great segment. All right. Let's look at Banfield. So are we all in agreement here that this alibi it's a little goofy? He's just out driving around in his automobile. All right, let's see. We're gonna end the poll. What is everybody saying? Do you believe Bryan was just driving around the night of the murders? 79% said no. 20% said yes. 101 people. 101 people. Arr, me matey. Where do pirates like to go after work? To a bar. That's great. Oh my God, a one-legged person hopped in the house, and out and again, leaving another print. I hear you say, "Arr, get my hook hand." Oh, Jesus. This is too much. It's too much. All right, let's see what's going on here.
Based on one surviving witness's accounts, investigators believe the deaths happened between 4 and 4:25 that morning. Kohberger's lawyers say their client had a habit of taking long drives alone, and that is what he was doing late November 12th and into the early hours of November 13th. Joining me now to talk about this latest development is criminologist Dr. Debbie Goodman. Dr. Goodman, thank you so much for being here this afternoon. It sounds as though Kohberger's defense team has a plan that they plan to go with. Do you think it will work?
Well, good afternoon, Nick. Always a pleasure to join you. I think this plan of a defense is aligned with Swiss cheese for me, Nick, as a criminologist. Why? Because there are way too many holes and simply not enough substance and solid information. So we can remind the viewers, when we talk about an alibi is something that is to dispute that the whereabouts of the defendant at the time of the crime. So he's alleged to have been at the home, but to simply say that he's on this long drive, there's no verification. An alibi is designed to either it's a person who can say where this individual was during this time period of November 12th to the 13th. It could be an item, by the way. It could be something such as a receipt where one was at a particular place where we've got a time and a date stamp. It could be surveillance of, closed caption type of TV. But to simply say that one is driving and there's no way to substantiate that, I feel it's very weak.
And Dr. Goldman, even if you were to produce surveillance video or a receipt of some kind, would they still have the burden of explaining away what prosecutors say they have as evidence of cell phone pings of his vehicle being near the home and casing the place before the murders occurred?
Right, that's a great point to bring up. So now we can pivot to what the prosecution will be presenting in October. And we already know it's going to be very solid, Nick, very substantial, to include his DNA, meaning the suspect, on this knife sheath that is directly at the crime scene. And to your point about the cell phone data and the pings, that's huge for the prosecution, showing that this individual is right there in close proximity to the crime scene of the home. We also have more. We have his car on footage. And what I think is also going to be really insurmountable for this defense is that this individual reached out to one or more of our victims on social media. We will also come to find out that he has pictures on his phone of one or more of our victims. So for me, we're really talking about just a lot of important, substantial data that the prosecution has and will introduce as evidence. And the defense, I feel, is just trying to grasp at straws and come up with something. But if that's all they have, it is terribly weak.
And Dr. Goldman, help, though, for our audience at home to understand that it's not a crime for a young man to go on a drive and possibly be near a home where something eventually occurred, or to have pictures of attractive girls on his phone or whatever. But what you're saying is it's the culmination of those things that actually that circumstantial evidence in whole could help to build a case.
Absolutely, Nick. And we know that many high-profile cases that we have discussed on the platform have been deeply rooted in the circumstantial. That's absolutely true. But remember, on this particular case, we have both circumstantial as well as tangible. I'm starting with the DNA. You know, we have to look at that first and foremost, that who among us, right, the million, billion, trillion, but on this case, we're in the numerical of octillion, that nobody else's DNA was found at this crime scene other than this suspect. So it will be very interesting as it plays out, but I just think we've got overwhelming evidence from the prosecution versus potentially what this defense is coming up with as a long drive to nowhere, with nobody seeing him and nobody substantiating this.
Thank you for watching. Go to
Thank you for watching. Just driving around. He's just driving around. You guys missed my song earlier. Brooke, you missed my song earlier. I was singing earlier. You missed it. Oh, boy. Where do we go from here? I'm just going to go drive around. I'm just going to drive around. All right, Law and Crime Network. Let's see what they got to say.
For the first time, we're hearing an alibi from alleged murderer Bryan Kohberger, the man accused of killing 4 college students last November. Kohberger now says he was all alone the night of the murders, going for a late-night drive. With an alibi like that, experts say Kohberger himself may have to take the stand.
I think Kohberger has to testify to get the information exactly the way they want it in this motion.
28-year-old Kohberger is charged in the quadruple murder that shocked the nation, when 4 University of Idaho students were found stabbed to death in their off-campus home on November 13th of last year. Investigators used DNA recovered from a knife sheath left at the crime scene to connect Kohberger to the case. In late December, he was arrested at his parents' home in Pennsylvania.
Detectives arrested 28-year-old Bryan Christopher Kohberger in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania.
Seems so long ago.
On a warrant for murders of Ethan, Zana, Madison, and Kaylee.
Surviving roommates of the victims later admitted to seeing a suspect in their home the night of the murders.
Thanks for the 5, John. Appreciate that.
5'10" or taller, male, not very muscular, but athletically built with bushy eyebrows. Prosecutors allege Kohberger matches that
description.
Remember that,
Judge?
After his extradition to Latah County, Idaho, he was charged with all 4 murders.
Count 2 alleges that you committed the felony offense of murder in the first degree. It alleges that the defendant, Bryan C. Kohberger, on or about November 13th, 2022, in Latah County, state of Idaho, did willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, with premeditation, and with malice aforethought, kill and murder Madison Mogen, a human being, by stabbing Madison Mogen, from which she died.
This week, Kohberger's defense team unveiled his alibi, but it may have left more questions than answers.
The strange thing about this case, though, is Kohberger can't say specifically when and where he was at the time of the murders. He can only say that I was on one of these routine drives in a car. So it's kind of sort of an alibi, but kind of sort of not an alibi.
Law and Crime Network host and public defender Bryan Kohberger says it's common for prosecutors to request alibi information from the defense ahead of trial.
So in a lot of states, Idaho included, the defense is obligated to give what's called an alibi notice. It's if there is an alibi where a defendant can say, I was at this place and at this time when a crime occurred at this place and this time, and therefore it could not have been me. Either it's through the defendant's own words, oftentimes corroborated with this witness, or this video can explain why I was not there.
On July 27th, Latah County prosecutors filed a motion to compel Kohberger's defense to provide the state with a notice of alibi.
For you in titanium.
According to court
Thank you
documents,
so much.
prosecutors were looking for a, quote, specific place or places at which the defendant claims to have been at the time of the burglary and homicides in the
jump on and chat a little bit?
and the names and addresses of all witnesses.
We can talk about driving around. Do you want to jump on, Tanya? Let me know. Do you want to drive around with me? We'll go driving in the night. we can bring Vince with us. We'll go hang out. Just driving around.
Is upon whom the defendant intends to rely to establish such alibi. On August 2nd, Kohberger's defense filed an objection to the state's motion, shedding some light on what they say is his alibi. But according to Kohberger, some pieces are missing.
I would say it's like a three-legged chair. Like it's still a chair, but it's definitely missing like a very important piece to the point that it might wobble and fall apart. But you err on the side of, I'm the defense, I'm going to file this motion, because in some states they're very strict, and I think the defense hinted at this in their motion, that they do not want this information to be excluded because they did not present it within the statutory time that you're supposed to provide an alibi. So it's, again, it's kind of sort of is an alibi, but it doesn't have the specificity or that fourth leg of this is exactly where I was at this exact time and why I could not have committed this crime.
Listen, if you have a fucking alibi that's going to clear you from a quadruple murder, why are you not saying it? Why are you not saying, no, I was here. I was with this person. I was in bed. I was at Walmart. I bought supply, I was grocery shopping that night. Here's my receipt. Hell, I wasn't even in the area. I was in Hawaii. Here's my plane ticket. It doesn't make any fucking sense at all in any of this. We know it's all bullshit. We know this is a bullshit thing, because I'm going to tell you, if I had a strong enough alibi to clear me from a quadruple murder when my life is going to be taken, you damn right I'm going to be screaming at the top of my lungs. I was not there. Here's the receipts. Here's the phone number. Here's my mother, my brother, the dog, the kitchen sink, whatever you need to do to get out of this. You damn right would be screaming at the top of your lungs. I don't believe this shit for one moment. I just finally cracked. It took me about an hour in the stream to crack. Okay. I don't believe this shit for a moment. It's a bunch of bullshit. And now it's just even pushing me further to the side that this guy 100% did this. Allegedly.
According to court documents, Kohberger, quote, has long had a habit of going for drives alone. The defense alleges that's what Kohberger was doing the night of the murders, but can't give much more information. The motion reads in part, quote, Mr. Kohberger is not claiming to be at a specific location at a specific time. At this time, there is not a specific witness to say precisely where Mr.
And what I was saying earlier, and again, what I was saying earlier was the way that this is going to be presented now, I believe, from the defense, if it gets to that point, is going to be, well, so what? He was driving around, and let's just say they don't have any video of him going inside the house. Well, you have video in and around the house. So what? He was just driving around that night. He was just driving by the house. He just happened to be in that particular area at that particular time. Doesn't mean my client is a murderer. We have no video evidence of him going inside the house. So that doesn't say that he went inside there. He was just out driving around. He often went down in that area. Oh, well, maybe he was a lonely guy and he was trying to find some people to socialize with. Again, I'm just playing defense here. I'm just playing defense. And that's definitely can be, the point of attack that they may come in. And then the DNA, oh, well, this is just all, it's all circumstances, just coincidence that this all happened all on the same night. Look at the DoorDash driver showed up right at the same time and dropped, this food off. And it was just a coincidence that they were there. And there was a lot of coincidences that night that happened. Again, I'm just playing defense here.
Kohberger was at each moment of the hours between late night November 12th, 2022 and early morning November 13th, 2022.
And in my mind, knowing the rules of evidence, at best, you can get someone up on the stand to say, yes, we looked at the cell phone history and there seems to be a habit of these late night drives to X and Y location. Some are to the university where the 4 victims are. Some are to other locations. But to specifically say, why this person is doing this, that would be a speculation, and that's an objection.
Buckmeyer explains having someone else testify about Kohberger's whereabouts could get tricky when it comes time for trial.
Even if, let's say hypothetically, my wife sees me every day drive and leave the house at 9 a.m., and come back at 5 p.m. and I tell her I'm at work, she would have to testify based on the words that I say, and that would be hearsay.
Though Kohberger's defense says there's no one who could corroborate his alibi right now, court documents show Kohberger, quote, indicated he anticipates corroborating witnesses. The motion continues saying, quote, corroboration of Bryan Kohberger not being at 1122 King may be brought out through cross-examination of the state's witnesses. At this time, Mr. Kohberger cannot be more specific about the possible witnesses and exactly what they will say. But Buckmeyer says Kohberger's testimony may be the best way to corroborate the claim.
How would someone even seeing Kohberger drive off know what and why he's doing these solo rides? In my mind, I think Kohberger has to testify to get the information exactly the way they want it in this motion.
That being said, Buckmeyer says Kohberger's testimony isn't guaranteed.
And I think they're going to try their best to get this information in without Kohberger. But at best, in my mind, I think it'll be speculation. It'll again go back to experts saying his cell phone travels to and from locations at times that could not have been connected to this crime. But then the prosecution gets to come up and say, all right, maybe he's scouting other places. Maybe he's scouting where to dump bodies. Maybe he's scouting where to dump evidence. Maybe he's scouting to do whatever they can speculate at. And I think that pulls away from the defense's argument to say, hey, he's just a graduate student who needs some time to blow off steam and drive around. Because the only one who can for sure say that, if these are solo rides, in my mind, would be Kohberger.
The defense's use of this alibi isn't guaranteed either.
Hey, Debbie.
Just because you give notice that there is an alibi, it doesn't mean that this is 100% what you're going to say.
Yeah, but he doesn't need to
speak.
speak.
The defense has every right because, again, it's the prosecution's burden to put on the case. They have no burden to put on any evidence. They could come up to trial and simply say, Your Honor, we gave you notice of this alibi, but the prosecution couldn't even prove their case. So there's no reason for us to put on a case. We have no burden, but you definitely want to give notice so you're not excluded from using it in the future.
A lengthy preliminary hearing in Kohberger's case was scheduled for June, but those court dates were scrapped when the prosecution moved forward with grand jury proceedings. Kohberger's defense referenced this in their newly filed court documents, writing, quote, the defense has been hampered by the state's own choices. The state chose a secret grand jury rather than the planned preliminary hearing. Had the state moved forward with the preliminary hearing, the defense would have had the opportunity to develop testimony through cross-examination and witness presentation.
The defense, I think, is making the appropriate argument that the prosecution pulled that away from them. If the prosecution never said how they were going to go about this case and never said we're going to go towards preliminary hearing, as we all assumed was going to happen, the defense wouldn't have this.
Always
argument.
Trump's fault.
As Kohberger's trial date looms, Buckmeyer says there are two important allegations the defense must work to combat: Kohberger's DNA on the knife sheath and information from the victim's roommate about a suspect seen the night of the murders.
With a defense, especially a defense like this, if you are perceiving that you're going to win, which every defense attorney who takes on the case should have that mindset, it's going to be a victory through 1,000 blows. So you take it one piece at a time. You say, all right, here's my alibi, or my client's alibi. He was somewhere else. Then the other issue is the DNA on the sheath. I think the other one will probably be identification of these bushy eyebrows.
But Buckmeyer says the defense's case isn't hopeless.
I've always made the point of, I think many of us have been to college. You go to, especially what would be considered the party house. And after that, you'd be like, you find this person's sweater and this person's shoe and this person's wallet. Things get left at the party house all the time. And sometimes they're there just because someone picks it up in the surrounding area, thinks it's cool, and leaves it in the party house. Maybe that's how that sheath got there. Maybe it does belong to Bryan Kohberger, but it wasn't brought there by him. Maybe they can attack the DNA to say the DNA wasn't collected properly, cross-contamination. It's not him because they didn't analyze it correctly, whatever it may be. But I think that's another very large mountain they've got to climb to try to bring reasonable doubt to this case.
A not guilty plea.
All right, I'm not going to play out the music there. Let's see. I got another one here from WNEP. WNEP. Title says, could Bryan Kohberger's alibi hurt his case more than it helps? I got a 199 from Allison. She says, how's he is treating the little lady Ann Taylor. Thanks for the 199. I appreciate your support. All right, let's play this.
Welcome back to Case of Interest Kohberger. I'm Newswatch 16 Stacey Lang. This is our web series where we break down all of the latest developments in the University of Idaho murder case. Of course, that happened.
See, she has that TV screen behind her. I want to get one of those for behind me, but I need a big enough one to get this area. But the thing is I like my background. So I don't know. Maybe I put a screen here. I've been thinking about it, but I got to find a tall enough stand because I got to get the TV up. And I was going to put like LTL graphics on it, like LTL podcast, and have like a running cycle of maybe like pictures of the show that I'm doing. Like if it's Bryan Kohberger stuff, if it's Idaho stuff, we'll run pictures of like Kaylee, Maddie, Ethan, and Xana in the background, stuff like that, So I thought maybe it'd be cool. Thinking about doing it. I just got to get the right setup and get put LTL graphics on it and stuff. It's an idea. It's an idea when I get this out of my damn house and get it into a studio. All right, let's play this.
In November of last year, 4 students were killed in their off-campus apartment at the University of Idaho. About a month later, we learned the suspect in that case is Bryan Kohberger, who's a native of our area, Monroe County, the Albrightsville area. So we're piecing this all together as this is now a local story to northeastern and central Pennsylvania. So this is our chance to sift through the paperwork that's filed in court leading up to Kohberger's trial, which is right now scheduled for October. And there's been a fairly important development this past week. There's a statute in Idaho criminal law that says that a defendant in a trial can present a formal alibi. And it basically presenting the formal alibi ahead of trial keeps the door open for that alibi to be discussed in trial. And that is a decision that Kohberger's defense team has made. And they submitted paperwork with an alibi. But there are some caveats to that. We brought in an expert who's going to help explain what this really means. I want to turn now to the paperwork that was filed on Wednesday in Idaho court with Kohberger's alibi and explain to you what Kohberger is presenting here. He basically is saying that he was alone in his car as the evidence
just driving around.
He was in his car driving his white Hyundai Elantra around the time of the murders in the area of Kings Road where those 4 students were killed, but he never left his car. That's his alibi. Let me read these 3 paragraphs here that kind of are the crux of this paperwork. Mr. Kohberger has had a habit of going for drives alone. Often he would go for drives at night. He did so late on November 12th and into November 13th of 2022. Mr. Kohberger is not claiming to be at a specific location at a specific time. At this time, there is not a specific witness to say precisely where Mr. Kohberger was at each moment of the hours between late night November 12th, 2022 and early morning November 13th, 2022. He was out driving during the late night and early morning hours of November 12th and 13th of 2022. Counsel for Mr. Kohberger is aware that case law broadens the definition of alibi with the statutory requirement of a specific location to more broadly include disclosure of information that tends to state the person claiming alibi was at a place other than the location of an offense. Mr. Kohberger has complied to the extent possible at this time. So basically they're saying here that though an alibi should be a specific place and time, they don't have that, but this is the minimum that they have to present to keep this alibi discussion open in court. Corroboration of Bryan Kohberger not being at 1122 King Road may be brought out through cross-examination of the state's witnesses. At this time, Mr. Kohberger cannot be more specific about the possible witnesses and exactly what they will say. The defense has been hampered by the state's own choices. The state chose a secret grand jury rather than the planned preliminary hearing. Had the state moved forward with a preliminary hearing, the defense would have had the opportunity to develop testimony through cross-examination and witness presentation. So they're also using this document to make an argument they have been making for weeks now, that the prosecution should not have indicted Kohberger through a secret grand jury and that they should have had an opportunity for preliminary hearing. Because what they want to do is see which witnesses the prosecution is going to bring to the stand, have an opportunity to cross-examine them ahead of trial. Now, we're going to break all of this down with a Luzerne County prosecutor, Jarrett Ferrantino, who's been involved in some big murder trials here in northeastern Pennsylvania. He has an interesting take on why Kohberger and his team may have made this decision. Let's listen to what he has to say.
When you look at this document where Kohberger lays out what he says his alibi is, what's your reaction as a prosecutor?
It's a defining moment when a defendant commits to particular aspects of their defense. Here, Bryan Kohberger, think about what he's saying in his alibi defense. He's saying, I was not at Kings Road in the middle of the night in those early morning hours. I was out driving around by myself.
Just driving.
Now, that is his alibi. He's not saying I was at a library studying with other witnesses who can testify and support that position. He's not saying I was with family. He's not even saying I was in bed in my apartment, which is where we typically are in the early morning hours of November 12th, November 13th. He has committed to being out and about, in all likelihood in that white Hyundai Elantra, which is consistent. So as a prosecutor, I'm looking at what aspects of what Mr. Kohberger has committed to is consistent with my case. Here it is. He was up. He was out. He was alone. He was in that Hyundai Elantra. All of a sudden, these are the kind of things that as a prosecutor, when you can show that Elantra was in proximity of Kings Road, his cell phone supports that information. Nobody else was with Bryan Kohberger at that time. His alibi is hurting him when tested against the prosecution's evidence. Even the manner in which they've presented it. In Idaho, if you put forth an alibi, which is fairly typical, you are required to specifically state where you were and identify witnesses that can support your case. Their filing, which we've reviewed here, says, well, we don't have witnesses that could necessarily put him there. We're going to procure that information in cross-examination with the state's witnesses. And we can't specifically say where he was. He was just driving around in the middle of the night. You've painted yourself into quite a corner there. It's a curious alibi. I don't know that that's the kind of alibi that's going to ultimately carry the day. Now, I haven't been privy to, and nor has the public, what else the defense is looking to put on, but they've committed that Bryan Kohberger in the middle of the night was on the move, and that's big.
And it does say that it seems like the case law supports that if he says this now, then it opens the door for him to be able to present witnesses at time of trial. Right? Am I understanding that correctly?
So Kohberger will always have the opportunity to present whatever witnesses have relevant information. So to the extent that his alibi opens the door for him to present witnesses, it does. But in Idaho, you're required to identify those alibi witnesses at the filing. They haven't done that. They've simply said the witnesses we're going to utilize in support of this alibi will actually be the state's witnesses and the information we're going to glean through cross-examination. That's a pretty curious approach, considering the prosecution maintains they have witnesses that are going to put Bryan Kohberger and his car and his DNA and his phone at Kings Road.
Do you anticipate that they're doing that because the defense feels like they're not going to be able to refute that evidence, which is the surveillance video of the car, the cell phone data, and all of that?
Well, if they couldn't refute it, if they're going to be unable to refute that evidence, their client is in a lot of trouble because the evidence puts him at Kings Road. Why the defense may be putting forth this alibi, let's say this, the defense may be putting forth this alibi because Bryan Kohberger is asking them to. But again, it is an ambiguous alibi at best. And to me, it is stronger in support of the prosecution's theory of this case rather than supportive of the defense.
It seems like Ann Taylor, the defense attorney, is also using this document as an opportunity to again ask for a preliminary hearing, which Kohberger did not get because he was indicted by a grand jury. Do you think that, why do you think that they are so adamant about having that hearing, and do you think they'll get it?
Well, let's focus on what they're hoping to get an opportunity to cross-examine the prosecution's witness before the time. Let's say this. What I can glean from the strategy of the defense to date, they are hoping for a day and an opportunity to cross-examine the defense's witnesses before they get to a jury. So they're hoping to re-engage that preliminary process, re-engage those witnesses through pretrial filings. Strategically, that's a pretty smart thing to do. See how these witnesses testify, test their recollection of facts, test their expertise. And they keep trying to relitigate ultimately the grand jury proceeding. I think it's important to note, if that proceeding was flawed, and I'm not suggesting it was, you just get a do-over. They go back and represent it. Ultimately, Bryan Kohberger doesn't walk out of his jail cell. We end up right where we were. So at the end of the day, that particular strategy ultimately ends up being like a delay tactic and tolls the inevitable day where these witnesses are going to be put in front of a jury, and Bryan Kohberger is going to stand trial for the horrible, horrific deaths of these young people. That was
Jarrett Ferrantino, a Luzerne County prosecutor, talking about what may help or hinder Kohberger's case in presenting this alibi to the judge as he has this week. We're also looking forward to a hearing. Kohberger's.
No, I said I was working on something behind the scenes while that video was playing. I said, Blondie in the house. She's hanging out. Hey, Blondie, did you see today that there were rumors swirling that Anthony Farah jumped from a building and offed himself after those videos? Obviously, it's not true because he made videos today. But there was an article roaming around. If you all missed last night's stream, we talked about Timepiece gentleman Anthony Farah. He's in debt for $5 million, basically scammed $5 million. Yeah, there was a fake website that was out, and Blondie said, yeah, she saw it. It's crazy, right? All right, I made something. I'm going to share it at the end of the show. It's pretty damn funny, though. All right, I got one more here from Court TV. Let's hear Vinny. Remember.
I'm Vinny Politan. Yep. We've got breaking news tonight. Put on your seatbelts. Get ready. You're not going to believe it. You are not going to believe it, folks.
He's driving around.
In the biggest case that we're tracking across the country, out in Moscow, Idaho, the mass murder of those 4 1,000% innocent college students from the university. The defendant.
Buckle up.
We talked a little bit before last week about, they may have an alibi. We think they may have. No. Today they file an actual alibi.
Vinny's great.
Filing where he was.
I'm so close
at the time of the murders. Now
I need 3 more subscribers. Let's get to there by the end of the stream. I want to crack 10,000. Damn it. Let's get us to 10,000.
Understand that an alibi
so close to 8,300
is, to me, anyone who's innocent, right? I'm not anyone, but I would say 98% of people who are wrongfully accused are factually innocent should be able to provide an alibi. Like, it couldn't have been me because I was doing X, Y, and Z, and A, B, and C can tell you about that, or this video can tell you about, like the alibi takes you away from the scene of the crime. It puts you somewhere else. It makes it impossible for you to have committed the crime, right? Every episode.
I want to let you know, after this video plays, don't go running out of here. What I want to do is I'm going to show you something that ends the stream, and then I'm going to do something for a contest that I want you all to get involved in. I think it's going to be fun, and I'm going to pick a winner who I think leaves. Wait to the end of this. We're going to have a contest.
Episode of Law and Order, the old show, the original Law and Order. That's the first thing we're on. Does he have an alibi? Every time they came across a suspect, did he have an alibi? Did he have an alibi? Does the alibi check out, right? If the alibi checks out, they move on to the next
suspect. We're going to do a contest. I'm going to give away a prize.
So, time for me to reveal what this alibi is. Again, you're not going to believe it. Take a look. Mr. Accused Murderer has long had a habit of going for drives alone. Often, he would go for drives at night. He did so late on November 12th and into November 13th, 2022. The accused mass murderer is not claiming to be at a specific location at a specific time. At this time, there's not a specific witness to say precisely where the accused mass murderer was at each moment of the hours between late night November 12th, 2022 and early morning November 13th, 2022. He was out driving during the late night and early morning hours of November 12th to 13th of 2022. All night, just driving.
All right, here's a good point to pot. I have to do this. All right, I got to show you guys this really quick, and then we'll go back to Vinny to wrap up the stream. But I want to show this because this is great. I just worked on it. I think it's really funny. Hang on, let me pull it up. This is so good. All right, ready? Just driving around. All right. What I'm going to do for a contest is this. I'm going to post this on my community page. My voice just cracked. You hear my voice? I'm going to post a blank one on my community page. What I all want you to do after the stream is you're going to go over to my community page, and I want you to caption it. So it's going to say caption this, and I'm going to pick the best caption and reveal it on the next stream. And then whoever does that, I'll send out like a $25 gift card to them. So what I want you all to do, I'm going to put a blank one up on my community page. I'm going to put a blank one up on my community page, and you guys are going to put a quote. And if you caption it and I like it, if I like it, I'm sorry, I'll reveal in the next stream, and I'll pick that winner. And you got to be able to, in the contest, you're going to be able to provide an address that I can send this gift card out to. So if you don't want to do that, then don't enter. But I'll pick an address that I send it out to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the blank one up on my page after the stream, and then you can go over to the community page and put a caption under it. All right, let's play out Vinny, and then we'll end this stream.
Wow. Let me bring in Court TV legal correspondent Chanley Painter, joining us on the phone with all these breaking details on her night off. Chanley, great to speak with you. Thank you for joining us. I'm looking at this alibi.
It's on.
And it almost strikes me as a bit of an
community pages on YouTube. I'll show you where it is. I post a lot on there, ladies and germs. So if you go over to the homepage, to my homepage, okay, you have these tabs: home, videos, shorts, live, podcast, playlist, community, the community. Blondie knows the community. And I post a lot on there. So you're missing content over there. I post when I'm going to do streams. I do visual posts. I mean, I'm always posting on there. So go over to that community page. And then it's right next to the membership page. If you want to get on the membership, you can also join a membership too. But the community, Blondie knows the community. All right. Let's finish up with Vinny. And then after the stream, I promise I'll place a blank one over there. You guys can capture it. Thank you so much for the $4 super sticker.
Huge. We know the evidence that prosecutors have, not only following his cell phone the night of the murders, Vinny, but his white Hyundai Elantra along the path around the time of the murders. And now he's admitting to being out there driving around, Vinny. We've been on the ground there. I've been to all of those locations on the scene. We showed you where he was and the path that he allegedly took. So for him to admit this is it's huge for prosecutors. So this motion where he does reveal part of an alibi is actually an objection to a state's motion to compel him to provide an alibi, because there's a time limit in Idaho where alibi is an affirmative defense. You have to let the prosecutors know within a certain amount of time, you know, a specific date, time, who you're with, corroborating witnesses to that alibi. So he's trying to get around that by saying, well, I can't really tell you exactly where I was on the night, but I have a habit of driving around the night. And he says in this motion that corroboration of him not being at the crime scene may come through the cross-examination of state witnesses, and he can't be more specific about what possible witnesses may say or what they won't say. He also says corroboration of not being there may be brought through expert witnesses of his own, Vinny. So again, real amorphous, but what a huge admission that he, yes, on the night of the murders was out driving around.
So you got him in the car that night, all night, right? Without a witness. So he's 1,000% by himself, not with someone else, not calling up a family member or a friend or going to a drive-through. See, that's the thing. Like, if you're out all night, are you gonna get a little hungry or something if you're just out for a casual drive?
And he happens to turn off his phone within a time range that his car, then he is picked up on Kings Road. We know that from the affidavit, making multiple passes back and forth and then allegedly speeding away. And then his phone comes back on at an area a little bit south of town. And nobody's with him. He is driving alone. And also, then remember what the affidavit said, that his phone is also pinging the next morning at the crime scene. And then also we know that there's no driving around at night after the murders in that area. He doesn't return to that area. So just saying.
Oh, I can do that.
So to establish this alibi, it seems he might.
He's like, those helicopters are following me. You want to see helicopters? When he goes see the coke dealer, I'll give you something to make you see helicopters.
Have to testify to say where he was, or just go by. This is like an alibi that's not quite an alibi because it doesn't necessarily put him somewhere else, right? It's much more vague that he's just out driving in the car, no one to witness and no specific places. No, he's not claiming to be at a specific location at a specific time, and there's not a specific witness. So it's a very unspecific alibi. Am I reading that right, Chandler?
You're exactly right, Vinny. So, but just the fact that he places himself, maybe, was he not driving his own car? Because we have his own car at the murder scene. on surveillance video around the times of the murder. So maybe he wasn't driving his own car. Maybe they'll challenge the cell phone data with their own expert. Maybe that's the expert they're referring to in this, because it's going to be the tower, attack the towers, covering a larger space than what it is. Who knows, Vinny? But this is definitely a big reveal.
All right, he's got a long habit of these drives, so maybe there's evidence of him doing it many other times. That I don't know. But Chanley, appreciate everyone at home. You must know Chanley.
Previous times.
What's that?
The affidavit said 12 previous times. Remember, at the around the crime scene.
That's
for
right.
Times, Vinny, he didn't turn off his cell phone. This time he turned off his cell phone.
Yeah.
So he does have a habit of doing these drives, but he doesn't have the habit of turning off the cell phone for the drives. Chanley, great to speak with you, and everyone at home again. Remember, Chanley, this is her day off, and she's helping us out so much. We appreciate it. Now, as Chanley mentioned, she's been out there, she's been on the ground, and she retraced all these movements. Went through that affidavit, the evidence prosecutors say they have, piece by piece. Let's take a look.
The probable cause affidavit in the case against the accused killer of 4 University of Idaho students pieces together the movements of the suspect vehicle and coordinating cell phone location data beginning in the early morning hours of November 13th. At 2:42 a.m., the affidavit alleges that Bryan Kohberger's phone places him likely at his apartment on the WSU campus, where he was a PhD student studying and teaching criminology. At 2:44 a.m., Kohberger's vehicle and cell phone are on the move. Police say his white Hyundai Elantra is spotted on WSU surveillance cameras traveling north on Nevada Street at Stadium Way. According to the affidavit, it was here in this area of the WSU campus where surveillance video and Kohberger's cell phone placed him here around 2:47 a.m. According to the affidavit, he spent several minutes in this area where he allegedly turned off his cell phone before heading out of town toward Moscow, Idaho. By 2:53 a.m., Kohberger's white Hyundai Elantra is observed heading in the direction of Moscow, Idaho. At 3:26 a.m., the affidavit then places Kohberger's vehicle, now in the town of Moscow, in this residential neighborhood on Indian Hills Drive. This happens to be a road directly overlooking the Moscow Police Department. The Elantra is picked up on surveillance video moving west past the 700 block of Indian Hills. At 3:28 a.m., video shows the vehicle on Steiner Avenue at Highway 95 as it made its way towards the King Road neighborhood where the victims live.
I'm going to stop this really quick because Blondie and I are having a conversation about TPG. I think I'm going to be honest with you, Blondie. I was thinking about this today, and maybe you can chime in here and see what you think. Think about this. All right, you notice on the video how he was taking photo, like we've seen photography in the background. Okay, so someone was like, well, maybe, maybe he was having someone there taking pictures of photos. All right. How about this? Now we know that TPG has played scams in the past, okay? Now I find it very ironic that he's on the phone with supposedly clients today in the day one video, okay? The day one video, he's talking to clients. None of those clients are pissed off at him. They're just like, oh, well, get us the money when you have it. Are you going to probably give me like $2,000 next week? Blah, blah, blah. Oh, the mess you're in is just crazy. Now, listen, if someone allegedly had $5 million of my money or combined clients' money, and I'd probably be pretty pissed off if someone just came out and admitted that they lost $3-4 million of my money. What's to say that this guy's not just playing a fucking scam again, and all this is just sus and it's all made up to get clicks and views on YouTube, and that he's going to run some fucking thing here for 30 days and erase $5 million in debt? I don't see it. I don't see it, because we worked out the numbers. You would have to make $14,000 a day for 365 days to erase $5 million in debt. I mean, it's possible if you're a millionaire, you have businesses, whatever. But I don't see some backpack YouTube watch trader erasing 5. You know, it's going to be like a 30-day series. You know that, right? I think it's all bullshit. She says, he has, I think, nearly 2K on one of those videos. Yeah, it's all bullshit. I think he's making it up. I think it's all made up. So Diana, yeah, we're talking about a YouTuber. His name is Anthony Ferreira. I did the stream on it last night. And I'll post that if you actually want to go back and watch it. It kind of tells the whole story of who Anthony Timepiece Gentleman is. You know, if this turns out to be any type of white collar crime, and that's why I covered it, because not only do we cover murder cases here, we can cover white collar crime as well. I just find it funny. This dude's all out on YouTube 3 days now, says that he lost $5 million of customers' money, and not one fucking knock on the door from a police official, a lawyer, the FBI. You know, no one's knocking on his door, but he's freely now making videos. Seems a little sus. Anyway, we'll finish this up with Vinny another 8 minutes or so, and then we'll wrap up the stream. And then I'm going to come back tomorrow night. You know what we do? The Kohberger Super Show Saturday night, where we take live calls. Maybe I can get Tanya over here to hang out after her show. Maybe she should come on the panel and hang out. We'll take some calls. We'll hang out with you. We'll talk a little bit more of this driving around alibi. But let's finish this up.
Then from 3:29 a.m. to 4:20 a.m., the suspect vehicle, the white Hyundai Elantra, is observed multiple times on video passing by 1122 King Road during the alleged time of the murder.
Yeah, the flash was totally on him.
On video speeding away on Walenta Drive. The probable cause affidavit
She's not
states
doing a
that the
10K
car
party
likely
tomorrow. I already talked
exited
to her
the
about
neighborhood
it.
at Post.
She's doing a giveaway tomorrow. It's 3 prizes on her channel. She did the 10K giveaway stream last week. And I actually texted her today, said, hey, are you doing, I can actually read you the text real quick. I texted her and I said, where is it? I said, hey T, are you doing, how are you? How you doing? Are you doing a 10K celebration stream tonight? She said, I did one last week. I was just doing my Saturday giveaway. She said, I'm good. How are you? And I said, okay, I just didn't want to step over you, meaning I didn't want to step on her. I was going to give her the space to have her time to shine. I was going to give you the floor on Saturday. I'll just run my regular stream time slot then. I'm good. Just hung up at work, blah, 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 blah. So, yeah, I just wanted to give her space if she was doing that. But she actually did it last weekend.
Loose River Drive and
Conestoga.
Conestoga
In a couple weeks, we can do my 10,000 subscriber stream because I really want to do
Drive, a road that eventually leads to Pullman, Washington. About 2 hours after he allegedly turned off his cell phone, police say Kohberger turned it back on here near Blaine, Idaho. It's about 10 to 15 minutes south of Moscow, a rural community off Highway 95, and it has its own cell tower. According to the affidavit, from 4:50 a.m. to 5:26 a.m., Kohberger's phone movements show him allegedly moving south towards Genesee, Idaho, and west towards Uniontown, Washington. Kohberger may have taken a well-known back road called Thorn Creek Road at this point in his route towards his apartment. These are all very isolated roads, but Thorn Creek Road is known to be even more desolate. Police allege Kohberger eventually made his drive back into Pullman, Washington from the quiet road of Johnson, where his vehicle was picked up on this security camera, the first time a camera captured his Hyundai after the murders were committed. By 5:30 a.m., police tracked the movements of Kohberger's cell phone and vehicle back to his apartment.
So there's the evidence that prosecutors say they have, right? Tracking the white Hyundai Elantra, and his alibi is that he's out for a drive that night. What does this mean? Let's bring the think tank. Join us tonight in Atlanta, Georgia, criminal defense attorney Eklund Mercy. Also with us in Phoenix, Arizona, the attorney who represented Jodi Arias, Kirk Nurmi. And in Washington, D.C., the attorney who represented Johnny Depp in his defamation case, won the case, and fellow of the American College of Trial Lawyers, Ben Chew, is with us. And before I ask a question, Ben, I mean, Kirk, you and Ben are going at it with the jackets tonight. Amazing job.
I think I'm going to dress up on a stream.
We're going to step it up, Vinny.
Exactly. All right. Let me start with Eklund Mercy, though. Eklund, this is this an alibi or an admission? If your alibi is putting yourself in the white Hyundai Elantra, and that's how they track down this killer through the videos and the cell phone in the car, moving with the car.
176 watching. Let's get a few more likes in here. Maybe I'll be nice and gift away some membership.
Then the cell phone's turned off, and then the car is seen at the scene.
Hey, I
and
lost
speeding
weight,
away. What's going on here?
I'm down 8 pounds.
This is one of those cases in which it's
skinny.
Hurry up and prove it prosecution. You want the prosecution to prove their case. They're having to, carry their burden. The officers did a great job with being very detailed, and the prosecutor was being very detailed in the timing and literally setting it up for an alibi.
That was a terrible game.
So if he doesn't give one, the only thing that he can do is literally poke holes in the prosecution's argument. They did a really good job of actually placing the car. Now it's going to be it. Literally, they probably did not give him an offer. So there's no pleading in this case. So the only option is to go to trial. At this point, you just force the prosecution to prove their burden.
So, Kirk, I mean, am I missing something here? If your alibi puts you in the white Hyundai Elantra, and it's the white Hyundai Elantra that's like circling around the crime scene and speeding away from the crime scene, is this really an alibi that I was going for a drive by myself to no specific location at no specific time with no specific independent witnesses?
No, as I was reading along there, I said this is more of an admission than an alibi. And it made me, look, the responsibility of a criminal defense attorney in a capital case, they're immense and intense. But the number one goal of that criminal defense attorney in that representation of death penalty case is to preserve their client's life. And I don't see how this does that. This doesn't really constitute an alibi to me. It's more of an admission that some of the state's evidence is accurate. It doesn't really make any sense to me. So, if their focus should be on things that save his life, and things like this, these partial admissions, they just go further because you extrapolate.
Well, do I have to explain this again? I have to explain it because we have someone that's angry in the room. Okay, D, I'm going to let you know right now. This is how I do my streams. I am from Boston. Okay, I'm very loud. I'm very whatever that word is. I'm very loud. I'm very annoying. And I do talk over people. And I do talk during my streams. So that's part of the show. My audience knows that. We just come in to hang out. When it gets a little later into the evening, we're just here to hang out and have fun. Of course, you can always go back and watch these videos on Court TV. Another thing, too, is the reason why I have to talk over the videos sometimes is because I don't get a copyright strike. So if live shows are not for you, I would say do this. Wait till I upload my podcast and you can come back and watch the replays. Okay? We have fun in here at the end of the night. It gets a little loose. We get a little wild. I start responding to the chat. I always read from the chat. I will always talk through the chat because I engage with my audience. Because you can't just sit here and turn your camera on and play a video and expect that people are going to show up and just sit through a video. It's not going to happen. You have to give some type of entertainment. Okay? So that's how I do my streams. My audience knows this. It was funny. Someone just said, oh boy, here we go. But if you don't like the content, there's the unsubscribe button down there. You don't have to subscribe. You can move on. It's okay. It's perfectly fine. We'll hang out without you. It's all right. All right. You know what I'll do for the next minute? I won't say anything.
Like this out and say he's got this habit of doing this. Well, the state can come back and say, look, he was stalking, he was praying, he was looking for victims, he found the victim. This makes it look all the worse in terms of the preservation of his life when you get to that sentencing phase. So to me, it doesn't make a lot of sense what's going on here for Mr. Kohberger's attorneys.
Yeah, Ben, Kirk makes a great point here talking about has a long habit of going for drives. Yeah, all the drives that were done driving around and near the scene of the mass murder, before the mass murder, seems to prove premeditation and planning more than, hey, I just go for drives.
I'm still here. It's my show. I'll do whatever I want. I love it. That's the power of having a platform. This is my show. I can do whatever. See that? See, everybody's agreeing. It's my damn show. I can do whatever I want. Listen, we get a little loose at the end of the night. Everybody, vivacious. Thank you. Sometimes it does get to me. I don't let it get to me often, but sometimes it does. It's my show. If you don't like it, start your own damn platform. This is how I perform over here. This is what I like doing. It's Friday night, exactly. And believe me, you don't think that everybody in this chat hasn't watched these videos already? Of course they have. I was just driving around. I just had to take a break. I was driving around. All right. I don't like being mean, but sometimes I did like that too much. It was fun because I don't do that very often. I'm very nice, calm mannered guy. But I think everybody likes it when I get a little spicy sometimes. Everybody, look at the chat flows. Everybody starts having fun. I know. I'm so full of myself. I know. Do you need a hug? Do you want a hug? I'm so full of myself. All right. Community page is up. Caption this when it will be announced tomorrow night on the live. I'll give away a $25 gift card. I'll get that out to the winner. I'm going to leave the link for my community page. You can go over there. Caption that. Just driving around. You guys will come up with some good captions. After the show ends, go over there, hang out. Put some posts on there. That'd be fun. And then tomorrow night, I'll pick one that I like. It's fine. Listen, I don't like picking on people, but this is my show. I can do what I want. If you don't like it, just click out. You don't have to watch the show. I like that. Tissue for your issue. That's great. See, everybody likes when I'm spicy. I already donated my winnings to the runner-up. Dr. Bob, have a good night. Thank you for being here. Thank you for modding. I love all these channel members. Thank you for all being here. You're all amazing peeps. You're my peeps. Yo, my peeps. Tomorrow night, Super Show, Kohberger. Maybe I can get Tanya over here after a show. I know she's been doing some double duty shows. It's gonna probably be, yeah, exactly, right here. No fucks given. Tomorrow night, 9:15 Eastern Standard Time. I haven't put the tile up. I'll probably do that tomorrow. Tomorrow morning, I'll get the tile up for the show. And I think that's it. Do we have any questions before we go? Does anybody have any questions? Drop some questions in there. Here, how about we do this? Let's make it exclusive. Let's make it exclusive for like the last 5 or 10 minutes. I'll hang out a little longer, but let's make it exclusive. Let's do this. If you ain't a member, you ain't going to be able to hang out here in a second. All right, let's do it. Oh, snap. But if you want to chat, you got to become a member. All right. Anybody have any questions? How guilty is Kohberger? Well, I don't know. You've read you've seen the evidence. You've read through what we know in the PCA. We know all the evidence that's leading up to this. You've seen the alibi, the now presumed alibi. I feel that the evidence is very, 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 very strong against Kohberger now, especially with that alibi. That's a half-witted, half-hearted alibi. Yes, Summer, what's going on? 110%, Nancy says. Yeah, dude. What was it when I asked Coffindaffer? I said, oh, and by the way, I'm going to get to that in a second too. I asked her how much of the evidence that you think we've seen so far, and she said, if you looked at a full deck of cards, we've only seen the 2 of spades to the 5 of spades right now. By the way, there was a lot of people that were commenting on my Coffindaffer videos, and they say, you know, everybody that Jennifer says is everybody she talks about is guilty. Everybody is talking about guilty. I challenge you this. The people that she's ever talked about being guilty, and when they've gone to court and they've been proven to be guilty, how many of those people that she ever put out there and said was guilty never turned out to be guilty? I think most of the time she's been pretty damn spot on, in my opinion. 100%. And if you even just, Blondie makes a good point. She says they can't even release everything. They haven't even finished discovery, let alone start ROGs and depots. The thing, if you even look at this too, in the recent document, they even say that discovery comes in on a weekly basis. That's in the new document. So the defense is still getting discovery. And I told you through all of this, even through the trial, you will continue to get discovery. That evidence will be let in. Does anyone care what he's going through besides his family? Listen, I'm sure he's going through a lot, but he's arrested as a very serious crime right now. He's arrested in a very serious crime right now. And it's horrible. It's horrible that everybody that's involved in this, or everybody that was involved in this, is going through this particular situation. You have 4 innocent people that were murdered, that didn't ask for this. They didn't know this was coming. You now have a community that is suffering. You now have parents that are suffering, relatives and friends. That whole school is suffering. They'll remember this forever. That stain will never go away. And that's going to deter a lot of people from going there, even 10, 15, 20 years down the line. You now have Kohberger's parents, his relatives, the neighbors that are going to have to deal with all of this. That community in Albright. So it's a very tragic thing all around for everybody. It's tragic for him. He's a young guy. He's 28 years old. And if he is accused of this crime and goes away or gets death penalty, not going to go away for the rest of his life, he's going to lose his life. But if he did do this, he made that choice to do this. It's on his conscience. And he has to pay for that. Because these kids didn't deserve this. As much hate as they're out, and there's some pretty disgusting people out there that say a lot of things about these 4 individuals, these innocent individuals that were murdered. But they didn't ask for this. And again, if he made this choice to do that, then he needs to pay for it. And that's why we have a legal justice system. Let me see if there's any more questions. Christy says, there is a gag order also. So the fact that people think that we should have all the evidence shown to us is crazy. All the evidence in any case is never shown up front. I heard rumors that he is a diva in jail. Anyone know for sure? I don't know. Oh, so Blondie was a paralegal. Really? Paralegally Blondie was my sidestep from watches. Ah, gotcha. For the complete innocent, like neighbors that couldn't even sell their homes because likely divulging because of this. Yeah, exactly. When there is so much we don't know, why would anyone except Jennifer get everything correct anyway? Her opinion from experience, that's what matters to me. And I'm going to tell you right now too, LJDC, you don't D3, and it makes a great point. And the thing that you have to look at, you don't think that Jennifer is privy to any of that information that's happening, that she probably doesn't have some friends still in the FBI that may particularly be on this case. You don't think that Jennifer Coffindaffer knows probably more of the evidence than we do. That she doesn't talk to people off the record and know what's actually going on in that case. Most likely, yeah. I mean, I can only speculate, but most likely, yeah, she probably has an idea of what's going on. She's in the media as well. You don't think Brian Enton doesn't get inside information as to what's going on in particular cases, which way he doesn't know the evidence is right now? Brian should have thought about how it would affect his family. Crimea River killed 4 people because he was bitchless. BK has multiple personalities. I want to thank whoever gifted my membership yesterday. Thanks so much. Absolutely. Well, welcome to the membership. If you haven't gone over, if you go onto my homepage and scroll all the way down, I have members only content in there. You can check all that out. I owe my viewers a members only stream. I'm probably going to do one tomorrow in the morning, maybe 10 a.m. We'll do a little hangout. And then tomorrow night I'll come back 9:15 for the super show. I just got to make that tile. I haven't made it yet. Let's see. If you guys have any more questions, you pop in there. I'll hang out for about 9 more minutes. We'll make it a 2-hour stream. I don't have anything going on. If you have any questions, put Q and then put your question. I'll be happy to answer it. Let's see where we're at. Whoa, I have a #1 video going right now on my channel. Look at that. Cool. It hit #1 status. We're at 8302, so I need to update the big board. We're getting closer to 10,000. Why is it like, I always find it funny on YouTube that when people insult you, if you say anything back to them as the host, like a half-hearted joke, people get so pissed off about that. Like they can come at you with anything, but if you have anything to retort, people get so pissed at that. They're so bad. Well, I know what it is. It's because I have a microphone and a camera and they don't. That's the problem. But I just find that really funny. Yeah, 1698 to go. It's still a long way. I wish I was a little bit summer because they suck balls. That's great. Hey, it's 11:11. Let's make a wish. I'm going to say my wish out loud. Please, please, YouTube gods. Please, please, YouTube gods. Let my channel blow up. Please, I want 100,000. Everybody better. I'm looking. Same thing. I want everybody. Please, YouTube gods, 100,000 subscribers. Please. I don't see your comments down there. Are we praying? Are we making a wish here for 100,000 subscribers? Please, 100,000 subscribers. Then I never have to go back to my corporate job ever again. I will just be a YouTuber for the rest of my life and be able to hang out with my friends. I don't see everybody making a wish down there. Are we wishing 100,000 subscribers? Play button, silver play button. Come on. It's not 11:11 anymore. That was fun. All right, we had a question. I got to go back to that. Question: if he's driving all night, accept receipt for gas purchase? Well, you would think. But why would they not say that in the recent document? He was driving around and we have a gas receipt to produce that he was at the gas pump at 4 o'clock in the morning, 4:05, 4:10 in the morning. He was getting gas. I would put that in my document. Hell yeah. Of course. Hey, look at this. Just Debbie said, my husband and my anniversary is tomorrow. We will be married 34 years. I have 3 sons and one granddaughter who I spoil like crazy. Well, congratulations. I am not married. I don't have kids. And I'm single. Congratulations. I love it. All right, we had another question here. Daniel says, next time you talk to Jennifer, ask her if the cast can track the cellular data if the phone is off or on in airplane mode. So I do know this, and I've done a stream on this before. Your phone will continue to collect data if it's off. An iPhone will collect data if it's off. So when it gets turned on, all that movement, all that oscillation in the phone will, upload and ping back information to the cloud. I do know that. We've looked into that. So it will, yes, it will collect data. Your phone continuously collects data. Doodlebug question: do you want kids? I don't know at this point in my life. I'm a little older now. That would just have to be, I think, discussed between my partner and I. That's a life decision. I'm not sure. I think I wanted kids a long time ago, but as I'm getting a little older here now, probably not. I don't know. It just would depend. It depends on who you fall in love with. It depends on who you end up in a relationship with. But that would be a conversation between me and my lady friend. All right. Michelle says, will we see the trial start in October or next year? I don't think it's going to happen until 2024 or 2025. Yeah, you're always tracked on your phone. You're always tracked on your phone. That's why people that commit murders, if you just look at a similar case, the guy that just got caught holding that girl in the cinder block cell in his basement. She busted out. When they read his notes, in his notes, it said, leave phone at home. So when he was going out and getting these victims, he didn't want to be tracked. If my phone is there and they say, hey, you were on West Street down there. No, I wasn't. I was here. My phone was at my house. I was sitting at my house. Do I have siblings? So I have a half sister, and my half brother passed away about 10 years ago. He actually ended up committing suicide. So I've dealt with a lot of crazy things in my life. I've dealt with my best friend being murdered, and I've dealt with suicide in the family as well too. Very tragic. Favorite, this is a good one. Question: favorite or dream car? I have two at the moment. I want a 1972 Nova, and I said that would be my first big YouTube check. If I ever make it big on YouTube, I'm going to take my YouTube check, and that will be the first automobile that I buy. And I like, what's the new, I know everybody's going to probably laugh at me. It's not a supercar, but it's pretty damn near it. Where the hell is it? I like this. God, these cars get me every single fucking time I see them. That damn Corvette, that Stingray. Oh, and I've been seeing a lot of them lately. The thing that I like about these, okay, American Muscle, which is fucking cool, okay, the car is gorgeous, okay, and it's fucking attainable. It's under $100,000 for a regular schmo like me. This car is obtainable in my lifetime. Now, a fucking $2 million Ferrari, I'm never going to be able to get one, but this here is I love these Stingrays. These are, they are fucking awesome. I want one so bad. But yeah, that would be mine. I've already done the BMW thing. I own a BMW. I will never own another BMW. I've owned two of them. I will never own another BMW. Don't buy a BMW. Yeah, but thank you asking. Let's see. I think there was OnlyFans. No OnlyFans. I have no favorite movie. Oh boy, my favorite movie is. I know what this is. My favorite movie is There Will Be Blood. Great movie. There Will Be Blood. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It is Daniel Day-Lewis. It takes place in like early to late 1800s into the 1900s, the big oil boom. And I absolutely love that movie. And it's just a dude that's super ruthless that wants to be over and control everything. And such a great movie if you haven't seen it. The visuals in that movie is just amazing. And the soundtrack was produced by the guitarist of the band Radiohead, which is really cool. And I love Radiohead. Oh, come on. Favorite band and song? Hello. Oh, actually, I'm going to turn. I'll go this way. That's my favorite band, the Misfits. And then probably second to that is my poster right here. When I met the Deftones, my signed poster. Deftones, hard number 2. You can kind of see it. It's my Deftones picture. That's my other Moderna right there. Oh, yeah. So I remember last time everybody was like, oh, you don't make your bed all the time. Well, I actually have a shirt and a hat on it right now, but I will show you. Let's see. See, my bed is made. My bed is right there and it is made. I had a shirt on there because that was my shirt from work and my hat from work. But yes, my bed I'm in my fucking bedroom. Isn't that funny? You would never even think of it. But see, my bed is made because Rising was like, oh, your bed. She was like, your bed is made. It's always made. My room is pimp. Like, you got to have it clean. You know, you never knew who's going to stop by or come by. I don't know. What else? Studio apartment. It's a 1-bedroom. I don't like big places. I think if I was even to win like the lottery, I would not want a big place. I would want a big garage for where I kept all my toys, all my cars, but I don't need a big home. Nah. I don't like big houses. I like very small spaces. Honestly, I was thinking the other day, I literally was going to sell all my shit. I have enough money to do it. Get one of those vans, convert it, and do van life. Quit my job and do van life for like a year and just go out on the road, or get like one of those tiny houses and go somewhere. I thought about doing that. Do I have a lottery ticket? I don't, but I have to grab one. If you want to hear a quick lottery story, I think I've told this before. I don't know if anybody heard me talk about this. 1995, my mom was dating a guy, ended up kicking him out. He was an alcoholic, lost his license, drinking, driving. My mom was driving him back and forth to work for almost like 2 years straight. Finally got sick of him, kicked him out. About 2 months later, he went in with a soaking wet dollar bill from laundry, went into a liquor store and bought a quick pick Powerball ticket. The next day he won $31 million. So that's probably as close as I will ever be to winning the lottery. So what's my favorite cheese? American, of course. Van life would be cool. What's my favorite sports team? It's definitely going to be the Red Sox, Patriots, Bruins, and the Celtics. Yeah, true story. And the guy's a fucking moron because he took the payout every year, and in 2015 got his last payout, and apparently now he is broke, dead broke, in the dirt, dead broke. So karma came back around. Guy was a dick. Guy was a super dick. Fucked my mom over pretty bad. Left her with a lot of bills when he fucking left. Yeah, I don't know. You know, the problem is it's my mom. I can't leave her for any long, like, extended period of time. My mom is disabled, so I take care of her. So it's important. Yeah, you know, Airstreams, but he's probably got a lot of money behind him. I don't. I mean, I have some money. I have a 401k and all that stuff, but I'm not going to deplete. I'm not going to deplete that just for that. I really want the channel just to pick up. It's really what I want. What else? Favorite sports team, favorite. Oh my God, my room is a mess. Do I have a lottery ticket? I answered that. I'm listening to you, Brian. You're honest and funny. I appreciate that, Phil. That's very nice of you to say that. Listen, I joke around, you know, like, that's the thing. I joke around and people have to understand my sarcasm. Like, I wasn't coming at D earlier, you know, but listen, you know, it's my show. I'm just going to do what I want. And you guys like it. That's why you come here. What's my nationality? I am French, German, English, Irish. And my English roots go way, way back to England. We've traced my coat of arms, and I actually have royalty blood that flows through these veins. So there was a king in my family way, 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 way back in the day. Why is your cat at your mom's? Okay, couple things. I work almost 50 hours a week, and a ragdoll Siamese needs a lot of attention, like constant attention. And he's a long-haired cat and sheds every 5 seconds. I am super OCD, and I just can't deal with the cat fur. It's too much. It's too stressful for me. Like, when I get up in the morning, like, my clothes have to be really clean and pressed and all that. And I just had so much cat hair in here. It was getting up, getting my clothes out of the closet. I'd have cat fur all over them. Then I would have to spend, you know, 20 minutes, 30 minutes out of my day where that time could be used to do other things, you know, cleaning my shirt off with what do they call that? The lint roller, and steaming my clothes. You know, it's too stressful for me because I have very, very limited time in my life. Right now anyway, because, you know, I get up very early in the morning, I go to the gym, and then I come home and I have a small window of time to get ready for work, get my meals prepped, go to work, do my work thing, come back home, stream, go to bed, wake up, go to the gym. You know, it's this repeat cycle. So that's why he's still my cat, but I think it gives her some comfort too, because my mom is obviously retired. She can't work, and she has something that, you know, someone with her that can keep her there. When will you play guitar for us? You know, maybe I'll do it on a members only stream. I probably won't do it here. I haven't really picked up a guitar in a long time, but I can certainly mess around, of course. I love my cat. My cat is gorgeous. I still go over and spend a lot of time with him. I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see him. That's him there, little monster. Blue eyes. Kind of bad seeing it through here, but play Wonderwall. It's growing every day. Remember, you said you wanted 5,000 at the end of June. You will hit it before you know, 10,000 by the end of the month. Yeah, you know, it's YouTube is they're not pushing my channel. I don't know. They don't like me. So I don't know. But we've passed 2 hours. We had this little members only session here at the end. I'm going to get off and get some sleep. I have a very short shift at work tomorrow. So 1 to 8 tomorrow. I'm going to come back for 9:15 and do the super show tomorrow night. I will drop the tile tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow, if I have time, I'll do like a little members only. Doodle says, you look at us when you answer us. What are you looking at? Well, my camera is right here. And I think that I do that just to kind of connect with everybody, because if you just watched a side profile of me, I'm not really connecting with the audience. So it's kind of like I'm trying to have a conversation with all of you. That's why I think I do it, to just give some recognition back to the chat. Just to feel a connection, to have a connection, because I can only see you in chat. I can't see your faces. And, I don't know. I think as us, as the live streamers, we try to figure out, maybe what the person in the chat looks like. Like I can see your little avatar pictures. So I have maybe a thought of, what someone might be, or an idea of what someone might be. I've had some communication with some of yous through like email and stuff, and I try to answer them my best I can. I really do. But I know I've been really bad at that lately. Yeah, it's like talking to the jury. It's just trying to connect with your audience, essentially. I try. I'm not the greatest YouTuber. I have a lot to improve on, but I don't know. So what I need everybody to do before I end the stream, and I will get the tile up for tomorrow, but I want you to take a stroll over to the community page, and I might have some, let's see if we have some, before we go, we can check. But here's the stream on the community page. You can go over there, and again, caption that photo of Kohberger outside the car, and let's see if we have any comments on there right now, and maybe we can look at some of them. The caption, let's see. Let's take a look and see if we got any. It does. We have some already. You guys are doing great. I love it. Let me approve these. We'll pull them up really quick. Let's see. Some of these are really good. Oh, wow. I got a lot of comments I have to approve. Okay. Let me see if I can go over there and show you guys really quick. Before we. Oh, no, my comments. Where's my comments? Come on. Where's the comments? I don't know if they posted yet. Let's see. Okay, cool. I got them. Let's check this out real quick before we go. And then you guys can go over there and comment on it. All right, let me see if I can enlarge this. All right, cool. So I said, caption this one will be announced tomorrow night. And tomorrow's a lot. I'll give away a $25 gift card. So the 80 Kids Rock says, may the source be with you. That's pretty good. I think that's Chulo Chulo says, the shopping is better in Idaho. I have been exonerated. I have candy. My car is self-driving. I was just along for the ride. I'm fine, officer. Just stalking blondes as the officer pulls up behind him. That's a pretty good one. I'm driving in my car. I turn on the radio. Vocals by Elmer Fudd. Cindy says, I need a ride. So keep those coming in. I want to see more of them. And again, tomorrow night, I will announce a winner. Again, we're just doing to have a little bit of fun. We're not trying to make fun of anybody or be insensitive to anything, but we got to have a little fun every now and then. We got to lighten up a little bit. Okay, I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to get some rest. Hopefully I can see all you guys tomorrow night for the Super Show. Maybe I can get Tanya over here to hang out and take some phone calls, but we'll talk a little bit more about this Alibi tomorrow. You guys are amazing. It was fun just hanging out, being loose at the end of the stream. And yeah, I think that's going to be it for me. That's going to be it for me. And I will see you guys all tomorrow night at 9:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Everybody be well. Everybody sleep well. I hope I do. And I'll see you soon. Have a good night. Bye.